would allow police to fine or move on so-called nuisance rough sleepers. It was intended to replace the Vagrancy Act from 1824, which currently criminalises both rough sleeping and begging. But reports suggest the new bill has been paused while ministers negotiate with MPs who are concerned about the consequences of issuing fines to homeless people. The plans were introduced by former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who branded rough sleeping a lifestyle choice. The head of Nurses Union has accused the government of packing hospital corridors with patients and says the quality of care is not only undignified but fatally unsafe. It comes as new estimates suggest more than 250 patients a week in England may have died needlessly last year because of long waits for hospital beds. A report by the Royal College of Emergency Medicine revealed more than 1.5 million patients waited in emergency departments for longer than 12 hours last year. The Department for Health says it added thousands of hospital beds and insists it's making progress on waiting times. The government's compensation scheme for victims of the Windrush scandal has been branded a failure 5 years after it started. It was set up to compensate British citizens who were wrongly threatened with deportation, despite having the right to live in the UK. However, campaigners are warning the number of people dying before getting payouts is increasing. They're calling on ministers to overhaul the process and speed up payments, with the Home Office replaced by an independent body. More than 5,400 migrants have been intercepted crossing the Channel in small boats during the first 3 months of this year. It's a record figure for that quarter, up 43% compared to the same time in 2023. Official figures from the Home Office show 442 people made the crossing in 9 small boats yesterday. That's despite difficult weather conditions, with lifeboats scrambling to assist some of the arrivals. Today's strong winds have now made the journey completely impassable. Some households will feel the effects of a cash boost from today as new economic policies come into effect. The national living wage is increasing to £11.44, giving a pay rise to around 3 million of Britain's lowest paid workers. Small businesses will also benefit from a raised VAT threshold and fully funded apprenticeships for young people. Energy bills are due to fall to their lowest rate in 2 years after the regulator Ofgem cut its price cap by 12.3%. It means the average household bill for gas and electricity will fall by around £238 over the course of a year, or about £20 a month. However, around 10 million households are still being urged to submit meter readings to avoid overpayment. A pink dress once worn by Marilyn Monroe has sold for a record-setting price. The long-sleeved silk jersey frock was owned and worn by the world's most famous film star. It sold for just under £300,000 by auction house Julian's in Los Angeles. There was also a smoking jacket and slippers worn by Playboy founder Hugh Hefner, which went under the hammer for more than £10,000. And for the person who truly has everything, there was the chance to pick up a crypt near both of those iconic stars. The price? Just under £155,000. And although that's no joke, it's been a day of brave and bizarre pranks as tricksters got creative this April Fool's Day. Dartmoor Search and Rescue announced their newest innovation, mountain rescue ducks, ready to keep watch by air and sea. Meanwhile, Ant and Dec told fans that they were giving up their telly careers to launch a tell-all cookbook. And supermarket chain Aldi released a teaser for its new dating show, Love Island. Meanwhile, in Switzerland, police unveiled their new secret weapon to unmask covert criminals, sniffer chickens. That one was especially for Dawn. For the latest stories, you can sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. I love that pink dress story. Tatiana, resplendent in pink. I'm wearing pink. She's more likely to look like Marilyn Monroe than me, though. That's the problem. Any case, welcome to Dewbs & Co. Hope you're having a wonderful bank holiday Monday out there. I'm Dawn Neeson, standing in for the lovely Michelle. And a brilliant panel for you. A Deputy Leader of Reform, Ben Habib. Hello, Ben. And political commentator Jo Phillips.
Hello,
lovely
Dawn.
Jo. Thank you for joining me on a bank holiday. It's Easter. I hope you're still eating eggs. I can't eat any more, to be honest with you. But this show isn't about how many eggs I've eaten. It's about you. So get in touch with us about everything that we're talking about or what you want to chat about. GBViews at GBNews.com or on Twitter, even easier, at GBNews. OK, well, it's the same story every weekend, isn't it now? Thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters calling for peace as they march through the streets. Over 200,000 marched this weekend with 4 people arrested, including 1 man on suspicion of a terrorism-related offence. So, as police reveal that the cost of police in the Gaza-related protests in London have reached over £32.2 million, is it time that we now ban these demonstrations altogether? It's a tricky question. First of all, though, let's have a look at the video that's caused all the controversy this weekend. You'll probably be very annoyed.
To walk with me because I can point these people out to you. And again, I was told when I asked that a swastika was not necessarily anti-Semitic or disruptive of public worship. That doesn't seem right to me.
Everything needs to be taken in context, doesn't it?
Right, OK, well, that was, if you couldn't hear or if you're listening on the radio, it's a Metropolitan Police officer telling a Jewish woman that swastikas displayed during a pro-Palestinian march needed to be taken in context. Now, a Met Police spokesperson has said this clip is a short excerpt of what was a 10-minute conversation with an officer. During the full conversation, the officer establishes that the person was concerned about has already been arrested for a public order offence in relation to a placard. So, I mean, the statement they actually issued said this. The officer then offered to arrange for other officers to attend and accompany the woman to identify any other persons she was concerned about amongst the protests. But after returning to speak to his supervisor, she had unfortunately left. Now, I have to admit, I don't blame her. I think she was an American tourist. She happens to be Jewish. But basically, she was on holiday in London, saw a protester waving a swastika at a peace demonstration and was upset and went to ask a police officer how that was allowed. Ben, I'm going to come to you first on this one. I'm a bit shocked by this still. I've seen it several times now and I still can't get my head around what I actually heard, especially seeing as the officer concerned actually said it depends on the context in which you're waving a swastika.
Well, I mean, if it did depend on the context, you would have thought this was a perfectly good example of where the context would prohibit it. I mean, there's no civilised circle in which I move where the swastika would be justified in any context. And, in fact, people, you know, when I was a member of the Brexit Party and now that I'm a member of Reform UK, often they replace the symbol of the Brexit Party, you know, previously now Reform UK, with a swastika to indicate that, you know, we're some kind of extreme far-right party. Actually, what's interesting is that this is essentially a left-wing march, and the swastika actually is the symbol for the National Socialist Party, which was famously left-wing. And I know we're going to be talking about free speech later, but this kind of totalitarian shutdown of debate, the insistence of a particular ideology over another, it's the preserve of the left. And the left are on the they're on the march, literally, at the moment. And the fact that this police officer could have had any form of debate with this woman, it should have been taken as read that the swastika is unacceptable. I mean, for goodness sake, this is, you know, a march effectively against Jews, and she's got a swastika on.
The context wasn't difficult to understand there.
No.
I mean, Jo, the swastika is offensive.
Yes, completely.
Certainly in those circumstances. And we have seen now so many times, so many offensive things going on these marches. Our own reporter, Catherine Forster, is now so worried about going back for her own safety to these marches, a peace march, by the way, that she's thinking twice about whether she should cover them in person. And a journalist being terrified to do her job in the streets of London. Isn't it time that we just stop these marches in particular?
Why should we stop these marches any more than stopping any other marches? If you go down that path, you're going to say, right, you can't march because they are peaceful. 4 people, you just said it, 4 people were arrested out of 200,000 people.
But maybe more should have been arrested.
Well, we don't know, Ben, because we weren't there. You could say that about any event, whether it was a pub or a party or a football match or anything. There were arrests made. I think that police officer engaged in a perfectly polite and civilised way. The person this woman had allegedly seen had apparently been arrested, presumably one of the 4 people charged. So it's been dealt with. The fact that he engaged with her, and I read somewhere else that he'd said, you know, if you want to, and offered that somebody else, you know, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, we can't have this march. I don't agree with the fact that this is a left-wing march. It is people who are appalled and horrified at what is happening to civilians in Gaza. I mean, the fact that, and I'll read you the quote from a Holocaust survivor, Stephen Kapos, who attended wearing a badge with the colours of Palestine, the Palestinian flag. And he said, we need to put pressure on our government and on the official opposition so they speak up, act, stop arming Israel and stop supporting genocide. Now, you know, he's a Holocaust survivor. He's got more right...
What did he have to say about the swastika?
Well, we don't know, Ben, because we weren't there.
But I bet he would have been
Well, he might have been, but the person was arrested.
Yeah. And I think the point I'm trying to make is that there is a valid debate to be had over whether Israel's continued bombardment of Gaza is justified or not. And I think the debate does need to move on from the principle of Israel having a right to defend itself, because it seems to me that Netanyahu's own domestic position is now promoting him into keeping this war going.
Well,
and I was actually quite pleased to see... I was quite pleased to see earlier the Israelis having struck a target in Syria, taking out an Iranian army officer, because I think the issue here... I'm digressing, but I'll come back to the point. The issue here is really a conflict between Iran on the one side and Saudi for hegemony over the Middle East. And the proxy battle being fought out is between Israel and Gaza.
But the problem I have with this, Ben, is that why is it being fought out on the streets of London in 2024, where we have Jewish people terrified to come into the city?
And I think that's a different debate, but one which is absolutely relevant. And the debate there, I think, is evidence of multiculturalism not working. We've taken on far too many people into this country, encouraged them to maintain their own cultures, their own language, their own way of living, encouraged them
Orthodox Jews,
encouraged them to live in silos, celebrated their positions, taken our own culture has taken the knee to it, and our culture, which Joe supports and I support, the right to protest, it's fundamentally part of British culture, is in certain cases being abused here. There are prescribed groups who are going out under the cover of these anti-war marches to actually spread hate. And the swastika is a very good example of it.
So that is one example that has been dealt with, we believe, by the police, according to that statement, out of 200,000 people.
Yeah, but...
But, Ben, would you then ban the Countryside Alliance? Would you ban marches?
I completely agree with you. The right to protest must be protected.
And these people are protesting peacefully.
But, in my opinion, having been to a couple of these, there is two-tier policing going on. If you had turned up with the St George's flag on your face and on your shirt, you know, you're more likely to be arrested than if you carry a swastika. And something's gone fundamentally wrong with the way we're behaving as... We're not a settled culture anymore. We're multicultures in the United Kingdom, sadly. We haven't got a settled social... social construct. We are a nation struggling now to identify what its culture is. And part of the problem there is the police now not knowing how to enforce the law. They come across the St George's flag. It's perfectly valid if you've got St George's flag painted on your face to lock the guy up.
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm so glad you mentioned the two-tier policing thing, 'cause I think we saw it, I personally think we saw it with the BLM marches, where the police were frightened to get involved in case they were accused of racism, and we know they've got issues with racism. And, you know, for example, regardless of what you think of his politics, if someone like Tommy Robinson had turned up with his face painted in the England flag or wearing a swastika draped over his shoulders...
Oh, my goodness.
How do you think the police would have reacted to that, Joe?
Well, I would imagine they would have arrested him. And, in fact, he was arrested at one of the marches because he's one of the groups of people that comes in to try and sow yet more division like we need it. I mean, you know, we've had Liz Truss, the former Prime Minister, remember her, sharing a platform where...
That was a bit weird.
You know, Tommy Robinson was praised as a hero by Steve Bannon. We've had...
Well, I don't think you
no,
can...
hang
no,
on.
No, you can't tangentially...
Yes, you can.
Implicate...
Yes, you can, Ben, because actually you have now got Lee Anderson, who told... in an interview with a national newspaper that if people didn't like going on the BB Stockholm barge, they could F off. That wasn't a recording.
Well, I've
said
got
it in an interview.
sympathy with Lee on the position.
You might have, but if you have people in senior positions, and at the time he was deputy chairman of the Conservative Party, you've got Hester, who's donated millions to the Conservative Party, who, you know, said appalling things about Diana Abbott. It took 48 hours for the government, the Prime Minister, to say that's racist and misogynist.
Well, I mean...
and you had ministers going on the television and the radio going...
Joe, I mean, we have digressed. I'm glad we've digressed.
I know, but you can't...
I don't digress too much. I mean, basically, the problem is that these marches in our city, people are terrified to come into town, and the police, I'm sorry, but they seem to have lost control.
The police are encouraged. Look, we've got to understand what's going on. Woke isn't a social fad that's just emerged out of the blue. Woke is something that has been actively promoted by government through the regulatory and legal framework in the United Kingdom.
What's woke got to do with this?
Well, I'm coming to it. And part of that is diversity, equality and inclusion. It's a fundamentally erroneous regulation that has now found its way as a virus into every organisation in the United Kingdom, including the police, which requires the police to promote the interests of minorities over and above, and if necessary, to the detriment of the majority. And that's why you are seeing two-tier policing, partly because they're scared, I suspect, because there are 200,000 Palestinian marchers.
Well, they're not Palestinian marchers.
Well, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli, whatever.
War. They're marching against...
Do you disagree that there is two-tier policing in this country?
I don't think there is.
You think all marches, all demonstrations are policed entirely
I'm not saying
equally?
that, but we know perfectly well that the Metropolitan Police is institutionally racist, as written large by Dame Louise
absolutely.
By an independent body for which there was no democratic accountability or scrutiny. I mean, she writes a report and it becomes absolutely sacrosanct that we can't challenge it. If I were to say the institutions of the United Kingdom used not to be racist, they are now encouraged to practice what I call reverse racism.
You think they used not to be racist?
No. I grew up in this country as a brown individual. My dad's Pakistani, my mum's English. I never have experienced racism against myself from any institution. I've experienced racism from individuals, but never institutional racism.
I find that astonishing,
And
Ben,
now we have regulatory requirement for reverse racism, and that is racist.
You need to right some of the wrongs, and it's not just racism. Look at what happened to Sarah Everard. Look at the fact that Wayne
But
Couzens...
that wasn't racism.
It doesn't matter whether it's racism. In your view,
that was a corrupt
it's woke
police officer
who was allowed to carry on.
Woke. Him raping a woman is completely unacceptable
but in your
every
view,
level.
That's about if somebody had said, you know, oh, it's just a bit of office banter. David Carrick was known as the rapist.
No, come on, that's not fair, Joe. You're putting words in my mouth, and then you're conflating those words with something else.
The only people who are using woke as something to be divisive are the right wing, who are saying that anything that tries to make a more decent, tolerant society is wrong.
No, the regulatory framework encourages and embeds division in the United Kingdom. I was going to say in our society, I can't claim that we have a society anymore.
As much as I'm loving this division currently in the studio, because you're both brilliant debaters, I'm running out of time on this one.
Sorry.
So sorry, but you're brilliant. Right, coming up, do you hate Scotland's new hate crime laws, or do you think there'll be a roaring success? Get your thoughts in ahead of another fiery debate. We've already started quite well, haven't we? In just a few minutes.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Can the Church of England not spend their money as they wish?
The Church of England can do amazing things for this country and for the world, and I'm not sure why it's chosen to focus on this specific issue. You know, one of the causes that I've always thought the Church was very good at were things called almshouses, which were basically houses that would be built on church estates for the needy. Not only did they want to spend £100 million on this fund, that they wanted to spend £1 billion on reparations as well. Well, why not spend 100 million or £1 billion on a new generation of almshouses, as opposed to just helping one group of people, black British people? Why not just help all people in need?
Alex?
Well, I just don't understand what the Church of England is trying to do. It's on its deathbed.
Congregations have reduced. I mean, deathbed is maybe...
Look, if we look over 20 years, it's dramatically lower than it used to be. And a lot of criticism from actual Christians come from the values that the Church of England are now propagating. And Justin Welby has a lot to answer for, because, you know, not only are we seeing in the news this mass conversion of illegal immigrants to a gay mass system in the UK, but now we're seeing them spending money... And as Albie actually pointed out correctly, in a way that doesn't really benefit broader society, it benefits a very small group of people. So I just don't know where it's going to end. This committee has also said £1 billion's not enough. It's 100 million, sorry.
Church commissioners are now hoping for a target of £1 billion.
I mean, it's woke nonsense, isn't it?
You could make the argument that this is charity. Justin Welby's job is to be a virtue signaller, is it not?
Charity discriminate? I mean, that's what he's saying. We're only going to give this to people from a specific skin colour or background. I don't think that's very Christian of them.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Cracking start, eh? This is Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, keeping me company until 7 o'clock. Well, unless they storm out of the studio, anything's possible. Is Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Ben Habib, and political commentator Joe Phillips, who did have a little bit of a group hug in the break, it has to be said. Now, I'm just going to read out some of your views, and a lot of you, not surprisingly, are on Team Ben. Sorry, Joe.
It's OK, I'm used to it. I can take it.
She's a grown woman.
You wait till we get to scones.
Oh, scones. There's going to be a bloodbath.
There's no such thing as a scone. It's a scone.
God, they've started already.
Scone.
Keep your powder dry.
Right,
sorry. Or keep your jam dry. OK, right, now, your message is coming in. Kathy, talking about what I've just been debating. Kathy, just a reminder that peace marches don't have participants screeching for the annihilation of an entire nation. pretty much what I've been thinking, to be honest with you. It's just scary. Phil says, referring to the police officer concerned who didn't quite understand the context of the swastika, he says, I would suggest the police officer didn't understand the law. He got it horribly wrong. And Sandra, again, echoed by a lot of you, well, the police should send the bill for policing to the organisers of these so-called peaceful marches. And Glenda... yeah, we all have the right to protest. Peaceful protest marches must be allowed, but I don't believe these weekly marches are peaceful anymore when people are afraid to visit London. Lots of you echoing those thoughts. But this programme is all about you. GB Views at GB News. You can sit on your screen, get in touch, what you're talking about, and there's scones to come as well. So let us know how you even pronounce it. I mean, I'm Team Joe on this one. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're posher than us or what. I can't work it out. Any case. Right, OK, be careful what you say. See, there's a seamless link there. Today, the Scottish Government's controversial Hate Crime and Public Order Act has come into effect and it's ruffled plenty of feathers. Scotland's First Minister, Humza Yousaf, has insisted the law will empower victims of hatred whilst maintaining public freedom of expression. Yeah, so is this new law a threat to free speech? And most importantly, will it actually work? Joe, from what I can work out, this law could basically criminalise the likes of Ricky Gervais and J.K. Rowling for basically telling jokes and standing up for what women are.
And women are not protected under this new law.
That was the
Which is a weird thing, isn't it? You know?
It's not weird. It is very, very concerning, isn't it?
I mean, this is, joking aside, or, you know, facetiousness aside, this is a sledgehammer to crack a nut that actually doesn't exist. You know, we talk about the police a lot on this programme. We talk about them being under-resourced or being sent in the wrong direction. How are you going to police something when somebody can anonymously phone up and report that Ben Habib, I overheard him on the phone saying something that I don't like and I'm really upset. No, I'm not giving you my name. Because that's how it stands at the moment.
Yeah, because you can report it as a third party.
Utterly ludicrous.
So this is, sorry to interrupt, but this is what I meant earlier when I said the left is on the march. This is a left wing shutting down of debate. That's what the Scottish Parliament is. It's effectively left wing.
The whole thing is utterly ridiculous. And, you know, we've got laws in place across the United Kingdom that protect people for discrimination against disability and gender, race,
disability,
and, you know, age,
homophobia, all of those things.
Ageism. And this thing about, I mean, I think it goes back to what Ben and I hopefully try to do, which is to disagree agreeably.
Yes.
And to have civil conversations where we are completely opposite.
Absolutely.
On so
Unless,
many
of course, you go off on one and then I have to challenge you.
I know.
I mean, scones. I mean, come on.
Wait for it, people. Wait for it. There's going to be clotted cream and jam all over the television screens around the country.
Just have your jacket dry clean. Come on, Jack.
It's all right. It's pink. But I think, you know, the whole point about this is who and what do you want the police who are under-resourced to do? And you know, I'm with J.K. Rowling on this stuff about misgendering. You know, and she's put out tweets or whatever they're called these days today saying, yeah, come on, arrest me.
Which, I mean, basically, her tweet today basically saying that women don't have penises is now potentially an arrestable offence in Scotland.
I mean, what is the world coming to? You know, we spent 100-odd years, or we spent the last 100 years emancipating women, giving them rights, protecting women, making it possible for them to come out in...
Only because we fought and protested for it. Only because we fought and protested.
Yeah, it was very generous of men to allow us to have that, wasn't it?
We gave you
No, but what this is now doing is setting that entire movement back ostensibly in the promotion of transgender ideology. And we had this ridiculous thing last week, I don't know if you saw it, with the female employees in the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, being threatened with legal action if they complained about transgender... I call them transgender men because they're still men. I know some people call them transgender women. But men who want to be women going into their loos. And they were threatened with legal action. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. But the other thing in this bill, this act that worries me, is the protection of religion as a debating point. Now, we ditched blasphemy laws 100 years ago.
In theory.
For very good reason. Because blasphemy laws, again, can be used to shut down debate and to cower
Would you want to have a chat with that bloke, the RE teacher in Batley in Yorkshire, about blasphemy laws? He's still in hiding.
Well, exactly. And, you know, if you give succour to people like Hamza Yusuf with this if you allow them this kind of indulgence, they'll be shutting down debate right across the board.
I think what is so alarming about this, and it's been knocking around for, I think, since 2021.
Yeah, it's been going a long time. Yeah.
So there's been plenty of time for it to be debated and discussed and picked over the entrails and all the rest of it. But in every interview that I've read and heard of ministers in Scotland trying to defend it, they've had to sort of row back to the point, well, then that would be up to the police to decide. Well, no, of course you couldn't be prosecuted for this, that and the other. Well, what is the point of it then?
Let's play devil's advocate very slightly on this. Obviously, the whole transgender thing, which is the most toxic debate you can possibly have at the moment. Now, there are people out there that use very hateful language about transgender people.
And lots of other people.
And lots of other people, but as you pointed out, Joe, lots of other people are already protected. I mean, race, age, sexuality, etc. But, I mean, there isn't anything specific until this in Scotland to protect transgender people from being insulted in this way.
But it's also...
But there cannot be a law against insulting someone. It's almost...
But they're
calling it, they're stirring up hatred.
By what? By what? By passing a law like this?
No. The law has got this clause in it, which now extends from the laws that we've got in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, which is stirring up hatred.
Yeah.
Well, that is very subjective.
It's impossible.
But the other thing is that it seems to me that, we're either infantilising ourselves as a country or as a society, that we have to go to the police and expect them to intervene, when we are not able to say, hang on, Ben, I find that really offensive, or Dawn, that was really out of order. We should be able to do that, and we should be able to call out the blokes who say, oh, it's just banter.
But don't belittle the importance of this act. This is, it no doubt is infantilising us, but what it is fundamentally doing is shutting down free speech. This is the thing of dictatorships. We should be allowed to offend each other. How do you have diversity of thought and progression in thought if you're not allowed to really challenge robustly someone else's ideology and beliefs? You've got to be able to go head to head, and you will be offended. And I'll be offended, and we may throw our toys out of the pram. But that shouldn't result in an arrest.
Do you think we should have picked up on this happening first with the universities, where it was the thought police? You can only think one way. We've had university lecturers hounded out of their jobs, mainly for the trans issue. I mean, sort of George Orwell's 1984 was a work of fiction. I mean, is it now literally real life?
But it is, and I'm sorry to go back to it, but the heart of all of this is in diversity, equality and inclusion. The promotion of transgender rights is just one of the promotions that is now advocated for and promoted by the regulatory framework in which our educational establishments work. So it is absolutely encouraged that they should promote transgender. The regulatory framework says, please promote transgender rights, please promote ethnic minorities, please promote minority religions, and if necessary, set Christianity aside, set the rights of the white majority aside, and set aside the rights of women. That's what we're seeing.
I think, and to go back really to the point you were saying earlier, well, both of you actually, about this sort of two-tier policing, I should think there are quite a lot of police officers and quite a lot of members of the public who would prefer the police to be investigating other things. And I think, it is absolutely fundamental that people shouldn't be offensive or cause alarm or fear, but we shouldn't always be running to the police to sort it out.
Let us know, if you live in Scotland in particularly, how you feel about this. GB Views at GBNews. I mean, we know our prisons are overflowing. If you report a burglary, it's not getting investigated. Rape and sexual assault in London is more or less legalised because it's not investigated, not prosecuted, etc, etc. But what do you think, especially if you're in Scotland? Really keen to hear from you because, comedy acts, you won't be able to go and see them because, Ricky Gervais' face is getting nicked, basically. Any case, move on. This is the one you're waiting for, I know. Coming up, the National Trust has divided opinion in tea rooms everywhere after making all of its scones, drum roll please, vegan. About time or an attack on our humble British scone heritage. This is Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, on GB News. Put the kettle on, grab a scone, but don't go too far.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather. Over the next 24 hours or so, we'll see the heavy showers fade away. It'll often remain quite cloudy, but there will be some brighter spells into Tuesday. Low pressure dominating the weather pattern at the moment, but a slack area of low pressure, so we've had some slow-moving heavy showers. These slowly fading away through this evening time. We do have a frontal system as well across parts of Scotland, the far north of England, giving some spells of rain. Into the early hours, we could see some clear spells through this central swathe of the UK, and here temperatures dipping into low single figures, and some further showers running across southern coastal counties of England too. There's a mixed picture for Tuesday. Some bright sunny spells across this central part of the UK, Wales into the Midlands, for example. This frontal system across eastern parts of Scotland continues to give outbreaks of rain through the day. Into the afternoon, we'll see some showers bubble up for many areas, but there'll be plenty of sunny spells, some rain in the southwest later. Temperatures in the sunshine reaching around 15 or 16 Celsius, still cold under the cloud and rain for Scotland. Into Wednesday, the next area of low pressure moves in, pushing rain north and eastwards across the country. Some of this could be heavy at times. Behind it, some showers following in, but also some brighter skies. And towards the end of the week, it turns wetter and windier, but with winds from the south, temperatures start to rise.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, my name is Johnny Ratner. The M6 continues to crawl for about a quarter of an hour heading south through Cheshire, just before the Sandbatch and Crewe exit junction 17. The two outside lanes are coned off. I can see on the cameras emergency services are on scene in the process of removing animals off the carriageway. And an update on that accident on the clockwise carriageway of the M60 in Greater Manchester at junction 23. Well, the outside lane still coned off past the scene of that collision that was holding traffic earlier on just after the Ashton-under-Lyne exit. On the Hertfordshire stretch of the M25, clockwise queues towards the A10 lane is out following an accident, and long queues of about an hour on the M5 heading away from Somerset towards Bristol in patches from Taunton towards Portishead, and that's as people head back from the bank holiday weekend. And there are no long distance trains to and from London Euston today for engineering works. And that's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 to 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, and keeping me company until 7 o'clock. I've got some scones. No, sorry, Joe Phillips and Ben Habib. And we've got scones, basically. Now, OK, we are going to do Sconegate. And for once, the debate is not what comes first, the jam or the cream. We've done that for decades, haven't we? But it seems there's outrage all over Britain, might be egging that one a bit, over the National Trust admitting its scones have all gone vegan, secretly. They didn't tell us. The National Trust failing to protect the humble British scones heritage. Now, this is, again, we've discussed it pretty much most of the show so far. This is a tiny minority, in this case the National Trust, dictating to the majority all the scones in 280 National Trust cafes and, you know, their on-site tea rooms, that's mine, their on-site tea rooms and everything, have gone vegan without telling us. And people are complaining because they don't taste as nice. Now, unfortunately, we couldn't get a vegan scone to do a taste test, but we're going to do the cream jam test in a minute. But, I mean, this is outrageous, Ben. I'm sorry, Sconegate. I'm not happy with this. I mean, why should everyone be vegan just because a tiny majority in this country are?
So, you know, it comes back again to what I was saying before. This is... The National Trust is famously woke. They hate the expression woke, and there have been articles written about how the National Trust kicks back at it. But the National Trust has embraced this promotion of minorities, again, taken it completely to heart, to the point where actually they stand against almost the buildings that they are charged to protect. So, for example, they linked Chartwell House, Winston Churchill's house, to the slave trade.
Colonialism and slavery.
Colonialism.
Marvellous.
And they're pro-BLM. They came out pro-BLM. And they put up placards across their properties, taking down placards that had been there for decades, putting up new ones, explaining how the property was linked to the slave trade. This is an institution which is charged to protect the heritage of the United Kingdom, but they hold the heritage of the United Kingdom in contempt. So how it is that they can continue to discharge that function is utterly beyond me.
They were also part of the group that recently accused the countryside of being racist, weren't they?
Absolutely. And apart from buildings, they're also in charge of famous landscapes, you know, British landscapes. And they accuse the countryside of being racist. Presumably, I think that comes about because they think white people seem to have the preserve of the countryside and, you know, urban communities tend to be multi-ethnic.
You're banned. I'm sorry, Ben. You are slightly brown. You can't go to the countryside. I mean, this is pathetic. I mean, why should we all have to put up with vegan stuff?
I have to say, Dawn, that when Holly, your producer, talked to me on the phone about this, I said, oh, is that the April Fool's story? Because I honestly thought it was. It's a story in the Daily Mail. Outrage and umbrage, you know, across 39 pages. And actually, frankly, I couldn't give a flying... What's the name?
Flying scone.
A flying scone, exactly. But and I can see from a catering point of view, it's a lot easier to go, just make them all vegan because it stops that endless... Have you got a vegan or a vegetarian version? Obviously, you couldn't have the clotted cream. You probably couldn't have the jam.
You can have vegan cream, but it's just like shaving foam, basically.
Well, I know. And if people don't like them, they won't eat them. And then, you know, I mean, I don't think on the scale... I just don't understand why they've done it in secret.
Can I just read a quote from a National Trust spokesman who said, they may taste different to the traditional version, but the whole point about the National Trust is to preserve tradition. So how dare they go against their charter, changing the scones?
The National Trust, in case you're confused, you're not funding them, by the way. They're not taxpayer funded. They are a charity, so you could always just, you know, pay your money or not pay your money. Anyway, this is their statement, right? Our cafes serve millions of customers a year and we work hard to accommodate dietary needs and allergies. Our scones are made with vegetable-based spread. This means our iconic plain and fruit scones can be enjoyed with those with dairy allergies and vegans. However, all scones can be enjoyed with butter or cream. But that doesn't make them vegan for a start. And how many vegans, National Trust, have actually complained to you that they're struggling? There must be another option if you're a vegan. I mean, I'm pretty much a vegetarian. I do like cheese, that's my problem.
I just think it's a, you know, it is a storm literally in a teacup.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Or on the side of a teacup.
Or on the side of a teacup. And all it's done is made the people who want to hate the National Trust for all the reasons that Ben has outlined do so even more, which is a shame because actually the places that they look after, you know...
They're wonderful. And they testify to the terrific history the United Kingdom has.
Which they're ashamed of.
Which they're ashamed of.
Why is that? What's wrong with British heritage and history?
But I think there's nothing wrong in trying to encourage other people, different people, to come to places that they might have thought was not their thing. I mean, we've talked about the racism in the countryside before, and, you know, I'm a farmer's daughter. I grew up in the countryside.
That makes you racist.
I know, it does, doesn't it? But, you know, it's not. But, you know, if you are in a small town, a village, and, you know, actually people in villages and in the countryside are unbelievably and understandably suspicious of incomers.
Yeah, strangers, no matter what colour skin they've got.
Because they might be, you know, stealing their tractors. They might be the sort of... I'll give you a fabulous vegetarian story. OK, so my family are sheep farmers. Anyone who's got a dog watching this, I hope, knows that dogs should always be kept on a lead when they are near sheep.
Yeah.
And a member of my family challenged some people who were walking with their dog through a field of pregnant ewes, and the woman said, well, the dog's not going to bother them, and anyway, I'm vegetarian.
That's
and that is a true story.
Okay. Now, talking of which, we have food in front of us now. I just want you not looking at one another.
Yeah.
Just prepare your scone as if you were going to have a lovely bank holiday, Easter bank holiday Monday cream tea. Don't look at each other. See what you do.
There's only one way to prepare
No cheating. Is there, though, Ben? Is there only one way? Is there only one way?
No.
Oh, this is fascinating.
I tell you, this is like Michael Portillo's programme, isn't it?
Yeah. But the jackets are similar.
I know. But you get truffles on his
There we go.
programme.
How's that?
That's fascinating.
Have we done it the same?
No, we've done it differently.
Well, that's only to be expected.
See, this is the great debate. Who's right?
I think it depends whether you come from Devon or Cornwall.
Yeah.
Someone will tell you.
Yeah, well, I mean, Devon is Cornwall. I can't remember.
I can't remember which way's round.
There go. But who's right on this one? You tell me. GB views at GB News. Right, I'm not going to do mine yet because you...
Go on.
I'm keeping it secret. Stay tuned and you'll find out. You're allowed to eat, yeah, as long as you can talk at the same time. Right, OK, now, still to come. Has April Fool's Day had its day? Have you had enough? Yes. Should we ban it entirely, or it's just a bit of harmless fun?
But we don't know about pronunciations.
Or scone or scone. You can join in with that one as well. This is not an April Fool. This is real, right? We are Scone-gate. We are in trouble, people. Let us know what you think. Yeah, have a scone, have a cup of tea, or even a glass of champagne. It's bank holiday, but don't go too far.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Is the brand of toothpaste super important here, or is it more about the toothbrush? Because I was told a long time ago by my dentist, electric toothbrush, Pip, that is the way to go.
You're exactly right. I mean, the action of mechanically removing plaque, so using a brush, is much more effective than the brand of toothpaste itself. But in terms of the ingredient in toothpaste that we're looking for, it's something called fluoride. And fluoride is essential to help remineralize and strengthen our teeth. It's really important to use a toothpaste with fluoride. And in terms of brushing, using an electric toothbrush is just much easier. You know, you're brushing your teeth first thing in the morning, last thing at night. You're going to be a bit tired in those times. So using an electric toothbrush, you just hold it against your tooth and gum and it does all the work for you. So it's just much easier in my opinion.
But you have to use your electric toothbrush properly.
You're exactly right. Yeah, there is a technique of actually brushing your teeth, although it sounds really simple. With an electric toothbrush, you have to hold it against the tooth and the gum. Ideally, you want a pressure sensor in that toothbrush so you know exactly when you're pressing too hard. But if you're using a manual toothbrush, you need to move it around and small circular motions. But actually what I see is people who use manual toothbrushes, they tend to over scrub and over brush, which can actually lead to gum recession and your enamel thinning long term.
Sometimes I will get up in the morning and I will have breakfast and then I'll brush my teeth. Is that wrong?
Unfortunately, that's wrong. So the best time to brush your teeth is first thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up. If you're brushing after you eat and after breakfast, you're brushing your teeth in that weakened acidic state. So your teeth are actually under attack and they're much more vulnerable.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Hello, welcome back. I haven't got a mouthful of scone or scone. Actually, I've been corrected on that, OK. Lots of you getting in touch. I love your views, right? Sheila, hi, Sheila. She says, I've heard King Charles say scone. So I'm just basically common and working class and can't talk proper. Meanwhile, yeah, Alan, you agree it's scone, not scone, as confirmed by the Queen's scone maker at Windsor Castle and Mary Berry. End of. All right, well, we're just common, aren't we, then?
Common as muck, but what I would just add to that one, in the village of Scone in Scotland, where the stone of Scone, since we're talking about the royal family, actually comes from, they say scoon.
Oh, don't. I mean,
So there you
you're just
go.
going too far now. Now I'm very confused. Anyways, as you've properly spotted, my panel are still with me, the lovely Jo and the lovely
bit jammy.
Ben. Now, she's got jam around her face. A quick message on the Scottish situation, and Diane. Hello, Diane. As a Scot, I hope it's the final nail in the coffin for the SNP. And Gareth says, quite rightly, actually, I've forgotten about this, look forward to 50,000 Rangers versus Celtic supporters getting arrested this Sunday. Yeah, good luck with that one. Now, April Fool. Good thing, bad thing, drives me nuts. Ed's a national newspaper, always ban them because I just think they're deeply unfunny. Good thing, bad thing?
I think some in the past have been really clever. Spaghetti and sans serif.
Yeah, spaghetti. I think we've got a clip of that at some point.
The spaghetti.
Ben?
Good thing. I think we've got to all laugh at ourselves, be prepared to be humiliated when we believe something we shouldn't. It's all a good thing.
This was Richard Dimbleby.
This was the one everyone remembers, and this is back in the dark ages.
God, it's
I mean,
1960s.
quite literally.
This is spaghetti going on trees.
And that actually fooled the nation.
But
it was
of course,
on BBC.
don't forget, in those days, spaghetti only came in tins. We didn't know about spaghetti.
No.
You know, you
And
think
no one had been to Italy.
Yeah,
no, exactly, exactly. And the sans serif, which was The Guardian did, they did a double-page spread on the island of sans serif, which anybody knows is a script.
No, exactly. Right, OK, we've got some April Fool quizzes for you now. Plane forced to return to airport after foul-smelling waste from broken toilet leaks into the cabin. Jo, is that an April Fool or genuine?
I think that's true.
True, Ben?
I think it looks so true.
OK, I think we'll reveal all afterwards. Right, Simon Cowell's quiet life in the country is ruined by moles as the furry creatures infest his £8 million Cotswold mega mansion after leaving London. He was leaving London, not the furry creatures. So is this real? These are all from the papers today, right, by the way. Jo, is that one an April Fool or is that real?
I think that might be true.
I think that's real too.
OK, interesting.
This is getting like Would I Lie to You?
The last one, I'm really rubbish quiz host, though. That job on Mastermind is definitely not mine, is it? Meanwhile, this one. Germany to invoke 1895 rule to stop Harry Kane, who plays in Germany, by the way, playing for England at the Euros, which are coming up. Jo, is that an April Fool?
I think that's an April Fool.
That's demonstrably wrong, isn't it? Can you imagine Germany invoking an ancient law to prevent an English player?
So, yeah, well, I mean, actually, it could be true. I mean, you know, the Germans, anything's possible. They have also banned the swastika, by the way, jumping around a bit here. Yeah. But, so, yeah, Simon Cowell and there were moles in his garden, weren't they? That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. The airplane one that's true.
Got that right.
Yeah. And so you're both... but the one that was an April Fool from the papers today was, you were both right, it's Harry Kane.
I see.
Yeah, he is allowed to actually... Have you been caught out by an April Fool?
I'm sure I have, yeah. I mean, I've been around for a few years, so I'm sure I have.
Jo?
But same as Ben. I mean, yeah, probably. And working as a news editor and a reporter and things like that, I'm sure I've seen some and then thought, no, hang on a minute, that can't be right.
I can't remember.
I probably fell for spaghetti on trees.
But they're probably, you know, I don't think they're as good as they used to be, but so much of life is like that.
Nothing is as good as it used to be, apart from scones, scones, whatever. Thank you very much, my lovely panel. And up next is Nigel Farage, possibly eating a scone. Who knows? Don't go too far. You'll find out soon. Thank you for watching.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather. Over the next 24 hours or so, we'll see the heavy showers fade away. It'll often remain quite cloudy, but there will be some brighter spells into Tuesday. Low pressure dominating the weather pattern at the moment, but a slack area of low pressure. So we've had some slow-moving heavy showers. These slowly fading away through this evening time. We do have a frontal system